Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are going to discuss the organization of the peripheral ganglia. As you know that ganglia are the neuronal cell bodies located outside the CNS. Why we are talking about it? Because we know that there are other ganglia like basal ganglia which are located inside the CNS. So concentrate on these peripheral ganglia. The first heading undercomes the peripheral ganglia are the ganglia containing cell bodies of the sensory neurons. These are actually not synaptic stations. You must be considering in your mind. Number 1, the dorsal root ganglia you can see, which is a sensory ganglia associated with the dorsal root of the spinal nerve. Now you have to concentrate about the sensory ganglia of the cranial nerves. So let's talk about the nerves that are associated with different ganglia. The 5th trigeminal nerve, and 7th the facial cranial nerve, and the 8th vestibulocochlear nerve, and then the 9th glossopharyngeal nerve and the vagus nerve. And in the very first picture you are looking into a ganglia which is a trigeminal ganglion. This is associated with the trigeminal or 5th cranial nerve. This second picture is showing the geniculate ganglion which is associated with that of the facial nerve or 7th cranial nerve. Let me show you another picture of it, a little bit clearly indicated. You can see that the geniculum of the, or you can see the site of the geniculate ganglion of the facial nerve. Now you can see the spiral ganglion which is having the bipolar neurons of the cochlear division of the vestibulocochlear nerve. You can very well see here in this very picture. And then you can see the vestibular ganglion containing again bipolar neurons of the vestibular division of the vestibulocochlear nerve. Again, this is the 8th cranial nerve. Then coming towards the 9th and the 10th cranial nerve, if I can enlarge the view, you can see the glossopharyngeal nerve having 2 ganglia, the superior ganglion and the inferior ganglion. On the other side, you can see the vagus nerve and the ganglia along with it, the superior ganglion of the vagus nerve and the inferior ganglion of the vagus nerve. After discussing about the ganglia of the cranial nerve, we have to discuss the ganglia associated with the autonomic neurons. These having the cell bodies of the neurons and they are now synaptic station. In this picture, you can see this sympathetic ganglionic chain here, if I can enlarge it for you. And this is the name given to the paravertebral ganglia as well. And among these, the highest one is called as the superior cervical ganglion. Then we can see the prevertebral ganglia in this picture also. And what are they? They are basically adjacent to the origin of the large unpaired branches of the abdominal aorta. Now you can see these prevertebral ganglia along with the unpaired branches of the aorta, including the celiac ganglion and the superior mesenteric ganglion, aortico-renal ganglion, inferior mesenteric. These are all the list which you call or named under the heading of the prevertebral ganglia. After that, you have to look into another picture in which you can see the adrenal medulla, which is present, you can see on the top of the renal gland. This adrenal medulla basically considered as a modified sympathetic ganglion. Its secretory cells and ganglionic cells are innervated by the cholinergic presynaptic sympathetic fibers. So it's also included under the heading of that ganglia. Now, after the sympathetic ganglia, we have to mention the parasympathetic ganglia. These parasympathetic ganglia, you must recall that the craniosacral outflow. Among that outflow, the cranial outflow includes these cranial nerves which are associated with these ganglia, and they are called as head ganglia. Number one on the top, you can see the ciliary ganglion, which is associated with the third cranial nerve or oculomotor nerve. Then you can see that pterygopalatine ganglion, which is associated with the facial nerve, and then you can see this submandibular ganglion, which is also associated predominantly with the facial nerve. Then you can see the otic ganglion, which is associated with the glossopharyngeal nerve. And in the very last, you can see the terminal ganglia under the heading of parasympathetic ganglia, which are near or in the wall of the organs, or you can say the ganglia of the submucosal, and you call this the mesoner and the myenteric or outer plexus of the GIT. And these are the ganglia along with the, you can call them as the enteric division of the autonomic nervous system. And this is the thing you should already have learned in the histology, that the myenteric and mesoner nerve plexus are present in the submucosa and the muscular layer of these intestinal tract. That also comes under the heading of parasympathetic ganglia. Why this was important? Because students are usually asked about the location of the peripheral ganglia, and you must know and kindly learn that chart as well, that what is being written and what questions can be asked from you during viva or